I really want to share with the people in my life about my mental illness, my high anxiety, my sudden fatigue, my panic attacks. Yet whenever the thought of sharing with people entered my head, I felt a wave of anxiety pass through me. My head began to pound, my heart sped up, my breathing became fast and shallow, almost like I was suffocating. If I didn't catch it in time, the anxiety could turn into a full-blown panic attack or sudden fatigue, with my body collapsing in place. Not a pretty picture. Still, I did eventually start sharing about my mental illness with some very close friends who I was confident would support me. And the conversation with one friend really shifted my thinking. He shared his perspective about how great it would be if all people who suffered from some kind of mental illness actually went to get the kind of professional help they needed. And what was the obstacle? Well, according to the research, the stigma against mental illness. And one of the best ways of getting rid of such stigma is for well-functioning people with mental illness to come out of the closet about their mental health. So that conversation with my friend really motivated me to sit down and think through all the good things that might happen if I told the story about my mental illness. I realized I was just flinching away, scared of the short-term pain of rejection from people in my life if I shared about my mental illness. I realized I was letting the short-term pain of rejection overcome the long-term benefits of sharing about my mental illness. And this is a classic thinking error that scientists call hyperbolic discounting, which is not being willing to make short-term sacrifices for much higher long-term rewards. So to combat this thinking error, I imagined what world I want to live in. And one world was the world where I would share right now about my mental illness. I would at first be very anxious about people's reaction as they learned about my mental illness and how some would disassociate themselves from me. And this isn't only anxiety or paranoia. I was quite confident that some people wouldn't want to associate with me because of my mental illness. I was especially concerned about fellow professors because there's a well-known stigma against mental illness in academia, as in other professions. But I realized that eventually all of this short-term anxiety and pain would go away as people found out about my mental illness. And eventually all the people would just know about my mental illness. And what would happen is that I would actually make the kind of difference I wanted to make in the world by fighting against the stigma. Just as importantly, it would be a huge burden off my back to not hide who I truly am and to be authentic with people in my life. I imagined a second world where I would keep my mental illness hidden from everyone but a few close friends. I would continue to not be authentic with people in my life and feel like a hypocrite, like I had to hide who I truly am from people in my life. And eventually, I knew that people would find out anyway, and I would get all the negative consequences in a time and place that I could not predict. And in the meantime, I would not be able to make the difference in fighting mental stigma of the kind that I knew I could make. So based on these evaluations, I realized that the first world, where I shared about my mental illness right now, was much more attractive to me. So I decided to take the plunge and share my story publicly. So how can you apply my story to your life? Well, whenever you want to take an action that has short-term pain but long-term rewards, here is a 3-step strategy. First, evaluate the world where you want to live. Consider one world where you take the action and another world where you don't take the action. Second, evaluate the benefits and costs of each world. Consider which world you want to live in a year from now, and then next and last, take the action that you want to go to the world in which you want to be 1 year from now. Review all the information that you're getting as you're taking the steps and revise your path as needed. This technique is part of a broader range of strategies we offer at Intentional Insights, a nonprofit dedicated to helping you refine and reach your goals through research-based strategies to help you improve your thinking, feeling, and behavior patterns. Check out our website, intentionalinsights.org, to learn more about our content and offerings. And good luck taking the kind of actions that may require short-term sacrifices for much longer, long-term rewards to help you win at life.